No one dared approach such concentrated grief.
I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support.
Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Literary Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. Now today we're going to be talking about The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A Craig. I read this book as our group read for the Shelf Space Book of the Month pick, and I absolutely loved it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I actually enjoyed this book way more than I thought I would, and I'll talk about why in just a minute. But first, let's get a spoiler-free summary of what House of Salt and Sorrows is all about. This is a light retelling of the Brothers Grimm, The 12 Dancing Princesses tale. It was marketed as a YA book, but it definitely reads adult. It does not read YA at all. Is horror, thriller, fantasy with a bit of romance all mixed together in this amazing story. In a manor by the sea, 12 sisters are cursed. Annalie lives a sheltered life at Highmore with her sisters and their father and stepmother. Once there were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short. Each death was more tragic than the last. There are whispers that the family is cursed by the gods, and Annalie has to figure out what happened to her sisters and who did it and why and how. And so what I loved about this book was the intrigue. It kept me guessing page after page after page. Each chapter, I had a new guess at who done it, and the next chapter proved that guess wrong. I won't say who it was because that'll give away spoilers, but I will say that the final suspect, the actual person that essentially did all of this, was one of my earlier guesses, but then I thought, no, it can't be that person because the next chapter kind of dispelled that theory. And then we circled back to it and I'm like, wow, it was them. This is insane. But I also never had imagined that it would end in that way, that it was that kind of story. The world building in this book was absolutely incredible. I loved everything about this world and I want more of it. It felt magical. Like, the girls go off to these magic dance parties and it just felt magical. They're dancing along. It was just amazing. The horror elements, you guys know I'm a big scaredy cat and so I don't do a lot of horror, but I felt like the elements of horror in this book were sprinkled in very well done. It wasn't over the top. There weren't a whole lot that oversaturated the story and all the other elements in it, but just enough to give you that touch of horror. There were times when I was reading this book and I got scared reading it alone in my apartment. Also, it kept me engaged throughout the whole time, and lately this has been an issue with books. I haven't been as engaged as I usually am, mostly because of other stuff happening in my life and the world and, distractions happening. But this book kept me engaged the whole time. What didn't work for me is that, although it kept me engaged the whole time, I felt like the beginning was a little bit of a slow start, but once it picked up and it got going, it did not slow down at all. And I was there for the entire ride. Also, the characters felt a little bit flat to me, a little bit predictable, but I think that's where that YA touch is supposed to be for. The girls were all obsessed with fashion and dresses and shoes, and I think those kinds of little tidbits are where the YA comes in. But the rest of the book did not read like YA at all. So like I said, I gave 5 out of 5 to The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A Craig. If you've read this book before, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts were. Did you love it as much as I did? I definitely want more in this world. think this is supposed to be a standalone, but I want so much more. As always, my Patreon and my Discord information will be in the description below. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.